Hello, guys. For those of you who are following the series, The Journey, you notice that I'm always making new investments, upgrading the facilities, hiring scouts, trading players, and others. Up to now, it's been flowing well. I like to plan everything in advance when I can, many weeks before I actually take the actions. In order to make my life easier and keep things more organized, I have this tool, which I use to control all the financial information of my club. You can have your own way of doing it. There are lots of possibilities. You can even write everything in a notebook if you prefer. But this is the way I do. Before I introduce the tool I use, just a quick reminder. If you are not following the series yet, or if you missed any chapters, check the playlist you see in the cards now, where you can find all of the episodes. This is what I use, a spreadsheet. I have some experience with Excel. Therefore, whenever I can, I try to use it to create tools that make my life easier and save me time. First, we have here the balance, which is the amount of money your club has right before the economy update in the beginning of the season or in the end of the season, as you prefer to see. Let's see, say for example, that this club has 25 million right before the season update. One more zero here. Okay. On the top here, you can write the amount of money you received based on the sponsorship deals from the previous season. In this example, at this moment, we are in season 81, so the previous season was season 80. This is the amount of money the club would have received based on the targets achieved in the season 80. Let's say, for example, that for the cup, this club get for 4,400,000, and for the other targets, 1 million. I'm not sure if these values are available. I'm just setting them here as an example. Let's say that this club doesn't play international competitions, so I just put 0 here for everything. I could actually leave it blank, I don't need to write 0. Then we have here this cell in which we should write the first day, the first Monday of the season. In the case of season 81, it should be the 3rd of June. Okay. Then we have other blank cells to fill up, but let me go to this side first. Here you have many parameters that you should set for each week of the season for the team. It seems a lot at the beginning, but once you do it, it will be fast. You don't need to do it all the time. For the week one, let's say if the club is in the fifth division, you put 5 here, or it can be 4 if it's the fourth division. Here you put the fan base on Monday, right before the economy update, which means after the match on Sunday. Let's say, for example, that this club has 8,500 supporters. Then, in this next section, you put your attendance for specific matches. If you play a cup match, for example, and you get 25,000 supporters, then let's say in the same week you play a second match away and you get 23. Okay, then you have only one home match in that week in which you get 21. Okay, if you have international matches, you can put here. The cells that you don't use, you can simply leave blank. You don't need to write 0. It doesn't matter whether you write 0 or leave it blank. Okay. Here you put how many TV matches you had during the week. Let's say that this club had one in this week. The number of youths you promoted. Let's consider 1, 2. And in this final part, you should write the level of each of these facilities for this week before the economy update. Then, since we have a attendance of 25,000 here, let's say that the stadium is 26,000 big. Fast food joints, I'll consider all money making facilities level 6. All of them. Okay. I will put injury related facilities level 0. Indirect money making facilities, parking and toilets level 3. I'll put floodlight 0. Let's say that this club has youth academy and training grounds at level, I'll put level 3, no, level 4. And for the others, I'll put level 0. Okay. I hope it's okay so far. And down here, you should put the level of your money making facilities for each match you play at home. Okay, here you have the legend for the initials. For example, R here means restaurant. This one is useful because, for example, let's suppose that here I said that you have your facilities at level 6. Then you play, for example, your first cup match with all of them in level 6. The second match is away, so it doesn't really matter what numbers you put here because it's not being played in your stadium, the match. But let's say that in the first home league match, which is the only one you played in that season, in between the cup match and the home match, you upgraded your facilities from level 6 to level 7. Then here it should be level 7. When the spreadsheet calculates, it will give you more revenue for this match due to your facilities than this one because the level is higher. Okay? If you have more matches in that week, you also fill up these ones. Okay? If you don't have, you can write anything here. You could put 10, 9, it doesn't matter because since it's 0 here, the final result will be 0 anyway. So you can just leave it blank. Then you go back and continue filling up the other side. Notice that now some of the gray cells have been calculated based on the data you put here. Okay, for example, TV Money, a club from the 4th division which had one TV match will receive 9,600,000 for TV Money. Okay, if I put here 0 TV matches, it would be just 9 million. Okay, so as you change here, the spreadsheet will be updated. If I put 2, it would be 10,200,000. Let's say that in this week you also received a sponsorship deal. Let's say you signed a 10-day contract, which would give you 70,500,000 since you are in the 4th division. Sales, let's say that you sold 10 million. You sold a player for this amount, maybe. You have to write the interest too. You can see the interest on the finance page every Monday. Let's consider 500,000 for this example. And purchase, let's say that you spend 5 million buying players or scouts. And for wages, for a club of the 4th division, let's say that you spend 4 million per week with wages. Okay? And then this is a total balance. In case you have constructions, let's say that you invested 20 million in construction this week. Okay, then in the end of the week, you should have this amount of money. You should always check this balance with the balance you have in the game. If the numbers are not matching, it means that you made some mistake in any of the blank cells you filled. Okay, but if this difference is very small, like only one unity or two, three, it's okay. It should be an error due to rounding. In the end of the season, you can correct using this correction field here that I will show later. I will show you a completely filled spreadsheet, and then you can see how I use this correction field. You can also use the spreadsheet to make projections, not only to insert real amounts. For example, currently we are in week 1 of the season. Let's say that for next week you want to spend 50 million buying players. Okay, so you would have this amount remaining. Let's say that you would spend 80 million to get negative number here. So based on everything that's written here, at this moment you wouldn't be able to, but we should fill up this side too. Let me simply copy and paste here, assuming that you will not change anything. Actually, since I consider here the facilities level 7, let me put them in level 7 here too. Just the money making facilities. Okay, should be correct. I will estimate a lower attendance for these matches. Let's say that you have two home matches next week. Okay, and let's say that you were kicked out from the cup, so you have no cup matches next week. And let's say that your Fan base grew a bit. This is the projection, and let me fill the other fields too. Okay, we are assuming two TV matches again. Let me consider zero. Sponsorship deals, I will get once more 17,500. And now consider no sales. For interest, let me say 650,000. Okay, this is what I want to buy. The wages. Since I sold some players, I bought something else. Let me put 3,800 on 3,800,000. Okay, and no constructions. So, based on my projection, considering these attendances that I get and everything that I included here, I wouldn't be able to spend 80 millions purchasing players because my final balance will be negative. Okay, so the projections are useful for you to do something like this. Or let's say that in week 6 you plan to spend 100 millions in constructions. Okay, this is too much. Okay, 100 million. You could make projections writing all of the things you plan to gain and to spend until here. Then you could have an idea whether you should make money to build at this moment or not. Okay, then based on this, if you need, you can make changes. You can hire less players, or if you have more money remaining, you can hire more players or invest in something else. And you can still be safe that you have your 100 when you need. Down here, you can also set some expectations for the season for each field, for purchases, for attendance. Okay, these ones are automatically calculated because here is the total expected in case you don't have any TV match, and here is the total expected in case you sign this contract 8 times during the season. Okay, I think you can sign 9 at most. 10, I don't think so, probably 9. But in case you sign only 8, this is the amount expected. Okay, in case you miss one for some reason, considering the 10-day contracts. For these other ones, you can set based on what you see on your team. When I show you the field spreadsheet, you can see what expectations I will put. In case you're not starting the beginning of the season, you can still use the spreadsheet. Let's say, for example, that you are starting in week 6 instead of week 1. Then let me remove all of this. And let me put some random data here. You're gonna start in week 6, I said, right? Let's set the same things as before. And let's say that you had one cup match with this amount of people and one home match with this amount of people. Okay, we also have to put the facilities. That's it. And okay, so we see that we have some data for week 7 already. Let's put something else. Let me put 0 here. Here can be 400,000. And let's say that we spent the same 20 million in constructions. Okay, you see that you can just do it. The values before will be just this sum here, and you start using the spreadsheet from week 7. Okay, these two values here, they will not be calculated because they depend on your club division here. But if you just put your division in all the lines, then it works. Okay. At the end of the season, after your spreadsheet is completely full, you used everything you needed, you simply click here on the tab New Season, and after you click this button, a new blank spreadsheet will be created for you to use. Okay? The previous one is still there. And the new one is here. You just change the name here. In our example, should be season 82. And you start filling just like we did in the previous one. Now let me show you what a field spreadsheet would look like. But first, another reminder. You can see that everything here is related to finance. This is a tool to make your life easier, but you can only use it properly if you know what each of these aspects mean. To understand each point you see here, check the playlist about finances available in the channel. It's in the cards now. This is the spreadsheet I'm using for my series of my extra team. You can see that here I put the sponsorship deals that we completed. Okay, we don't have international competition, and this was our balance before the season update. Okay, currently we are in the first week, so I have only the first week fulfilled. But you can see that I made many projections already. This is when I expect to receive the sponsorship deals, the 10-day contract. This is the current wages. I just projected them for the whole season, but this will surely change. These are some constructions I plan to make. You can see that I have some notes too. You can do it on the spreadsheet as well. Okay, things I'm wondering about. Here also, this is a real attendance. It's the first home match we had, but all the other ones are projections. Okay, I underestimate it a bit, but based on this, I can know more or less the amount of money I will have available for each week. Okay, this is the real state of the facilities, and these others are all projections. Okay. This is season 81, but you can see for season 82, in the case of season 80, these are all real values, as season 80 is over. As the weeks pass, I paint them on red, but you don't have to do that, it's up to you. In the sponsored deals here, it's all zero because this was the first season I played, so I had nothing to receive from the previous season. And based on the final results that I obtained here for each column, I could set some expectations for the next season, season 81, for example. Regarding attendance, I had this, but my stadium was small at the beginning and it grew as the season passed. Then I could expect something like, let's say, 100 million maybe, being optimistic. For the merchandise store, I have made this, but also the level grew over the season. Then let's say 10 million. Understand I could make some expectations like this based on what I had last season. Here you can also notice what I mentioned before about the correction. See, in the game, my final balance was this, but in the spreadsheet, I obtained this. There is a 2 unit difference. Then I just put here 2 in the correction, and I see what my final balance is. It should be the same as in the game. For the next season, I just copy this value here and start filling up again. If you think this spreadsheet is useful, if you think it could help you develop your game, send a message to the email you see in the screen now. Then I will tell you how you can have this spreadsheet. That's all for this video, guys. If you have questions, write them down below. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. See you soon.